Hello Wonders, and welcome to another episode of Wonders for Wellness. Today we're going to be talking about how I lost 26 pounds in quarantine. But not just about the weight loss. I want to discuss with you the things that I learned along the way that are helping me get to the goals that I have today. So in order to tell this story right, I have to take you back through my journey. So I grew up jogging in high school, not officially, just before I would go to class. And I was part of a JROTC program, which means that we had practice starting at 6 a.m. So my routine, my freshman and halfway through my sophomore year, before my health took a really bad turn, I would get up at 4:30 in the morning. I would go for a morning run around our neighborhood, and I would come home, eat breakfast, get ready, and then show up at JROTC practice at 6 a.m. I know that's a lot. I've always been that way. I just have a high drive and I have to have an outlet to keep up with myself. So that's what I used to do. And in high school, not because of the exercising, but because I had a really bad retrovirus at that time, I weighed about 99 pounds soaking wet. People thought that I was anorexic. People thought I might have had an eating disorder. I did not. I loved food. I ate at every opportunity, any youth group setting I could get food, any social event, if there were snacks, I was there. And that was just part of the retrovirus, which we can elaborate more. But this story is really about the weight gain, weight loss, and my struggle with that, for a long time. So there was a point that I had a really bad relationship in high school, which is also one of the factors of how I was severely underweight. I was just stressed out all the time. And after that, him and I broke up and I started to gain weight. And it was to the point where I got to a normal, more healthy, I think I was about 120 for the longest time. And sometime in Colorado, when my health was really, really, really bad, this was after the retrovirus was cleared out, and we were working to rebuild a lot of my body's systems. I was still suffering really bad problems that were a lot of mineral deficiencies and things that I hadn't yet been able to pinpoint, because there's so little known about retroviruses, which is where I really hope that I can help contribute to that field as well, as far as what recovery can look like to someone who's had it and how to rebuild the system. So moving forward, I was at my heaviest, and I was probably working out every day, and my breakfast was literally yogurt, my lunch was soup or salad, and my dinner was some kind of protein with a very limited amount of carbohydrates, and that was not healthy for me at the time. But I just didn't understand how I was so heavy. Well, at that particular point, I had actually given myself tapeworms by mistake. That's another story. And yes, I've cleared it out long time ago. It was the most disgusting experience of my life, and I will do a video on it, but that's not today's story. So after that, I had a really hard time after clearing out the parasites, kind of getting back to a weight that I was happy with. I was in and out of exercise routines. None of them were professionally led, so please don't get the wrong idea. I just didn't know what I was doing, and I'd spend a lot of time at the gym. I tried aerobic, I tried treadmills, I tried all kinds of things. And my weight I was never really happy where I was. So fast forward to the last 2 years that I was working at MGM, I lived about an hour and a half away from my job, and I would commute an hour and a half one way, and that put 3 hours a day. That still wasn't the problem. The problem was I would still get up in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. I would still go to the gym. I would, do HIIT training. I would do any type of exercise. I could watch others and try to mimic them and try and get some walking time in, but I had no idea how many calories I should be consuming in a day, how many calories I should be losing, how to watch for my particular body type. And I knew none of that. I was just trying really hard, and there were points where I wanted to burn out. I tried different diets, I tried different exercise routines, and nothing was working. Eventually, I started to see ads pop up on my Facebook that was like for some brain hormone. I can't vouch for this. I am sure that somehow, somewhere, this plays some type of an effect, but I really wanted to share with you what I found out that is actually a lot more common, a lot less people know about it, and it ends up creating a lot of other issues. So the first thing that I did was I just started looking on YouTube for weight loss and trying to figure out, how many calories I should be taking and what kinds of foods I should be eating. And I came across something very interesting that I was actually experiencing. I was having a very hard time sleeping. I was very stressed out. I think all of us were, really, with the state of the world, not knowing what was going to happen with COVID. Like, what did tomorrow look like? So there were a lot of questions, a lot of things that were not answered, and I ended up stressing out a lot. Well, when you stress out, there is a hormone that I'm sure you've heard about before. It's called cortisol. All of us have heard that commercial, I think, that you need Relicore non-spawn. Cortisol is actually part of a process. When you have high cortisol, you're usually dealing with something called insulin resistance. So a lot of issues that we see today with pancreatic issues, diabetes, hyperthyroidism, things where our thyroids are out or our blood sugars are off and our pancreas is struggling, have to do with how we're consuming food. So the first thing is I learned about insulin resistance from a holistic doctor and former decathlete, Dr. Stan Ekberg. I'll leave his information in the video comment section below. But he really lays out what insulin resistance is. This is particularly true for us as a society because we put so much sugar in our foods. Insulin resistance is basically, insulin is the hormone that opens up your cell and allows the glucose from the food to enter. Well, when you have a lot of sugar, sugar is 50% fructose and 50% glucose, so it's able to get into a lot of cells really fast, which is why sugar gives us energy. The problem is in addition to the foods that we're eating, the sugar is packing our cells to where our cells are still sending a signal that is resisting the insulin's key to say, hey, open up this cell, I need to get food in. This is also one of the reasons why we can feel like we're starving and we're not getting nutrients out of our food. And I'll get into that a little bit more here in a second. So with the insulin resistance, Dr. Ekberg advised try walking, not running. Don't do anything where you are, as he says, huffing and puffing. And what this does is it does not trigger the cortisol when you're just taking walks. So the first thing I did to lose weight is that I would take walks in the morning, and I started walking 3.5 miles every morning, and I started to see a little bit of a shift. Well, at the same time, I started to see things pop up on my timeline on Facebook, some ads about the different body styles. There's a system out there called V-Shred, and I did not sign up. I don't know much about it, but the guy that was doing the ad showed the 3 different types of body types that have to do with how your body processes and digests carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. These are called your macros, and every body type has a different percentage on how they should be dealing with their macros. So you have the ectomorphs, and you have the mesomorphs, and you have the endomorphs. And my body type happens to be endomorph, and I feel like a lot of women are. If you are an endomorph, what that means is that you have a higher chance of being insulin resistant. It means that you have a harder time losing weight, an easier time gaining weight, and you're more sensitive to carbohydrates. versus an ectomorph who actually has to consume a lot more calories and has a much harder time putting on weight. A mesomorph, I had an ex who I'm convinced is a mesomorph, and he didn't have to exercise really. He just automatically put on muscle, and that's just not fair to the rest of us, thanks. But so I learned about the macros, and I learned about what that means. I still wasn't taking full control of watching my macros. I just was kind of trying to be more sensitive to what I was eating, and I just kept trying to learn more about food. One very key thing that I learned that I said I would talk about here a little bit more was the idea of being fat adapted. So food is going to break down into insulin or into a blood sugar of some form. That is how your body eats, is it converts everything into some kind of food. So your food is either going to convert into insulin or into glycogen. And a lot of breads that we eat convert into glycogen. Now, if you are someone who is insulin sensitive, you are actually going to want to become more fat adapted. You're going to want to eat less carbs, which you won't feel as full, and you're going to want to concentrate more on fats and proteins to really get your food sources. You have a better time digesting. It won't be so difficult to feel like you're getting nutrients, and you won't feel like you're starving all the time. So definitely check that out, being fat adapted. And you don't have to be fully fat adapted, but definitely making progress towards that direction will help you feel a lot better, a lot less hungry, and a lot less like your body's starving constantly. I got to a point that for me was pretty important. I had a lot of things I was dealing with, and I was at a particularly low point, and sometimes you just meet people who, you didn't expect for things to happen this way, but you know that they were kind of divinely sent to you. And I'm part of a women's group on Facebook called Female Entrepreneurs, and she posted a picture and asked how many of us would like to be able to get these results. And I was like, well, I would, because I've wanted that my entire life and have never been able to get there. I also needed at the time to have goals and to have something to reach for. And again, I know a lot of excellent trainers, and this is not a slight to any of them. They are wonderful people with wonderful talent, and had this been a fair, I was looking at everything equally and I was just picking and choosing, I probably would have come to someone I knew first. But this was one of those moments that you knew there was a reason they were sent to you. And so I connected with this woman, and she has wonderful rates, and she is from the UK. She does a wonderful job, and I'm going to leave her information down below. If you do decide that you would be interested in her, please let me know, and I can kind of connect you a little bit better and introduce you to her, because she gets booked pretty easy. So I did all of this. I hired a trainer, and my trainer really, really wanted me to focus on some things I didn't know. She helped me understand how important it is to actually count macros. So I downloaded an app. It's free, and it's like one of the number one apps that a lot of trainers use. It's called MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal helps you to plug in what you eat during the day, and it will automatically calculate for you how much fats you're eating, how much protein you're eating, and how much carbohydrates you're eating. This is particularly important for an endomorph, because we're supposed to be at 30% carbs, 35% fats, and 35% proteins as a start. Please don't take that as, written in stone. I know I'm going to have people on here saying that's not right. It can be this to this to this, and I get it. But this is a really good place to start. And this is what, if you type in Google, should pop up. Ectomorphs should be at 55% carbs, 20% fats, and 25% protein. Mesomorphs should be at 40% carbs, 30% fats and 30% protein. So you can see how if you are one body type and you're not eating your right percentages, how that can really screw up your goals for weight loss. So at the point I met my trainer, just from walking and just for being a little bit more sensitive, I had already lost 16 pounds. To me, that's incredible. That's nearly 20 pounds of fat loss, and it was amazing. But I'm still not to my goal. And so I hired my trainer, and in the first 4 weeks, I lost another 10 pounds. So altogether, so far, I've lost 26 pounds. And that, to me, is mind-blowing. She has been instrumental in helping me understand kind of the steps I need to take, how many calories I need to consume, and she can help put you on a customized plan. Again, her information is below, and let me know if you'd like to connect with her and I'll get you connected. I really hope this helps, and until next time, Wonders, stay safe, stay healthy.